The door opened. At the sight of Butler walking forward, the battlefield sank into a quiet desolation, as if cold water had been splashed on it. Butler got closer to Roman and said when he finally got to a distance where it wouldn't be strange to attack at any time. "I've seen a lot of crazy people in my life, but I have never seen someone like you tell me in advance. I will do my best. I don't know what kind of trap they prepared, but if you came out with a foolish mindset, turn around now. If you do, your life will be spared." Butler drew his sword. Even though he hadn't taken a pose yet, he gave off a cool spirit. Roman laughed. "The moment I cross swords with you in the mountains, I hope to see you fight to the end. There were no traps in the first place. There are no plans to trap you, and I just want to see you fight. So do your best. If you kill me right here, you can get what you want." Butler chuckled. "Crazy bastard." They ran towards each other. 5-star realm. From then on, strength can be discussed on the continent, and a single armed force can change the face of the battlefield. Butler's aura exploded. The fate of Hector's kingdom was at stake, and Butler had no intention of prolonging the match. From the beginning, Cairo's nobles widened their eyes at the powerful attack that distorted space. Even if Roman Dmitri was one level stronger than Rumors, he couldn't even imagine how he would block Butler's blow. The aura, which seemed to swallow Roman at any moment, could not pierce Roman's sword, and every time the sword collided, a powerful shock wave was generated and swept the surroundings. Aura exploded. Butler didn't care about the opponent's defense. If you block a blow to the head, attack. Take a step forward and block the right side with the right side. When Roman turns around, attack the other side again. The mana inside the body constantly circulates through the body, giving explosive power whenever he moves, exploding the aura and kicking the ground. It suddenly appeared in Roman's field of vision, as if space had been folded. Once Roman was pushed back by the storm-like attack, wounds were formed one by one on his body without realizing it. Blood splattered. Even though it was only a slight glance, the skin protected by the aura was torn like paper, and blood splattered. Even so, Roman did not frown once.
The soldiers on Butler's side were shouting his name, and one of them shouted, "Please avenge our companions." Attacks of Roman and Butler collided with each other. Roman blocked every attack thrown at him. Butler thought, he has become faster in intercepting my attacks. He does not only prevent them. Rather, he's slowly reading my sword's path. Roman was smiling while blocking Butler's every attack. Then the fear rise in the Butler heart. Do not tell me that. He is testing me? During all this, Roman thought, I can finally see my place in this new world. Although I managed to defeat Homer, who was a 4-star at the movement, I haven't won against a 5-star swordsman. I must fight Butler to see my status. Roman's aura covered the sword and he charged, saying, "So I will destroy this wall here," and climb to the new level. Butler shouted, "You rude bastard." There was an aura explosion. The weak random impact of energy was clear. Swordsmen with aura do not exercise accurate control over mana. Instead, their auras erupt like an explosion. This means that not all parts of the sword are equal in strength. If the blade has 120% of the aura, the both sides can only use 80% of its strength. Roman attacked at the sword thinking, I will read the flow of mana and strike the weak point. With the Roman attack, Butler was pushed back. Then Roman attacked with the sword skill of the heavenly demon, the third movement. Huge purple aura slash hit the Butler. A 5-star swordsman was pushed back. Everyone from both sides was beyond just surprise, and they were shocked. Soldiers who were cheering for Butler before were now asking, how could this happen? Isn't Roman Dmitri a 3-star swordsman? How can he fight equally with Mr. Butler, who is a 5-star swordsman in a duel? Butler was on his knees, panting. Edwin, looking at the Butler with anxiety, asked to himself, did he really want to fight to see how strong he is without any deception? If Butler loses to Roman Dmitri, that will be the worst situation. In the end, we will not only lose our strongest combat power, rather, we will also have to withdraw from the back camp. Then he hesitantly told to himself, I can only put my trust in Butler. Well, he still has not shown everything he has yet. Butler griped his sword thinking about Roman. He really is a crazy person. Butler put his aura in the sword and his sword starts to glow yellow with his aura. While coughing out blood, Butler thought, I thought he prepared traps while using the fight as an excuse, but he was really trying to defeat me. The plans we made and thought to be perfect, but began to collapse. Butler looked at the Roman who was in his fighting stance with glowing red eyes, looking like a tiger who was ready to hunt its prey at any movement. Butler thought it was due to the presence of a crazy person like him on the southern front among all places. If I allow Roman Dmitri leave here alive, the kingdom of Hector may eventually have to fight a monster that we cannot bear, so I must kill him here now. Butler released his full power. His body was covered with golden aura. His eyes turned golden due to rush of energy in this body. Butler shouted, "I will fight you with everything I have." Butler's eyes emit golden light as he prepared his attack. A sun-emitting golden light, just like Butler's aura, started to form at the tip of Butler's sword, which grew in size with every second. So far, there were only 2 people who prevented Butler's strike. One of them became the strongest duelist in the kingdom of Hector. The other is on the continent list. Butler attacked, saying, "You are done." Secret art, the sunstroke. Butler's huge aura attack in the form of sun moved toward Roman. Roman took the fighting stance, prepared himself to face the attack. Roman calmingly, though, while facing Butler's attack. In that case, I can only focus on defense. If this the most powerful strike from Butler, so the strongest shield owned by the heavenly demon, Big Jungkook, is the art of the heavenly demon sword, the iron shield. Butler's attack landed where Roman was standing. The impact destroyed the land. Edwin was shocked to see the Butler's attack collide with the Roman. Butler's attack landed on the shield created by Roman. Roman said while smiling, "Come on. Let's decide who is the strongest. Your strike or my shield." After that, the attack from Butler exploded. Roman was still standing. Edward thought, "How?" He was shocked. This didn't make sense. Ground where Roman was standing was not affected by Butler's attack. Roman removed his shield with a smile. Butler couldn't understand how Roman Dmitri had stopped his ultimate attack that even a 5-star aura swordsman would have failed to. Butler said, "I used up too much mana with one shot. But I just can't give up here." Roman kicked the ground wildly. He attacked Butler with everything he had for the first time. His mana exploded aggressively as if it was erupting from an active volcano, and Butler was pushed back without even being able to catch his breath. Butler thought, "How the hell this happens? I, who have experienced all the battles on the battlefield, to be pushed by a kind in his 20s like this, but I just can't give up here. Even if I die here, I must take this monster that poses a threat to the prince with me." While he was thinking this, Roman grabbed his face and slammed down him on the ground. Butler gathered every last drop of his strength and he exploded his aura in order to take Roman's life. But this was not enough to stop Roman. Roman spoke with dominating voice while preparing to strike down Butler. "I shall always remember your willpower." Seeing this, Edwin shouted in anger, "Stop." Rune flare. Flames exploded from above the wall. As Roman stepped back to avoid the attack that aimed for him, he saw the gates opening and troops rushing out. "Rescue Knights, Captain Butler." "You bastards. Do not touch our captain." The soldiers rushed in crazily. The Hector kingdom had seemingly been abandoned by God. They gave up the reputation of the Hector kingdom that was left internationally and chose to save Butler. Nevertheless, Roman Dmitri was waiting for Edwin Hector to show humanity right from the start. "Roman, I should not miss this opportunity." After which the scene shifted to the past. The first attempt to prevent the war from escalating further was done. The nobles of Cairo reacted somewhat suspiciously. The news that Butler was defeated wasn't readily accepted, so they asked one more time. Let's say such a miracle happened. What is the next plan? What will happen from then? Based on their reaction to what they heard, Roman said, "As you all know, I have experience dealing with the Hector kingdom in the mountains." The Hector kingdom decided to retreat, but they didn't just retreat. They went down the mountain with the bodies of their lost comrades after such a night. Do you people think that was the right decision? Emotionally, it might make sense to do that for their dead comrades, but at the time, the Hector kingdom was under pressure, and they took a break to capture the front-line defense positions, which was the only way to recover from the lost victory. He ordered the tired soldiers to bring the bodies down, and as a result, they could only rest after the sun rose to the middle of the sky. Edwin Hector is a good commander. I plan to take advantage of that aspect of Edwin Hector. Butler is capable of breaking his righteousness in a fight. I beat him. The first part of the plan is done, and the second part starts. I will not kill Butler with a single blow. I will only incapacitate him. Then the scene shifts to the present. Roman said the time when Edwin Hector decides to save Butler, that's when we start our second operation. Attack. You have to buy time to save the knight's captain. The soldiers running towards Butler showed their will to die. Butler's existence was worth risking their lives. The battle began. Roman slashed the knight who rushed before him and ruthlessly slashed the others. Roman thought, Edwin Hector, it is clear you are a good commander, but you're not fit for war. Rescue Butler. Buy us time. Their purpose was to rescue Butler. As his comrades were dying, a few troops came up to Butler and carried his limp body away. We cannot attack like this. From above the wall, people who were watching this were shocked. Their allies were fighting with him, which made it tough to land a hit. The nobles of Cairo, watching the situation from a distance, couldn't help but marvel at Roman's progress. It's like magic. Roman Dimitri is the greatest talent Cairo has ever produced. I can see why Marquis Benedict tells us to recruit him at all costs. The moment Roman Dimitri swears allegiance, not just the weak king but the other two empires which harass Cairo will back down. Count Fabius, who had come to his senses, gave the order as planned. Count Fabius shouted, "Troops, forward! Attack!" The order was carried out. The soldiers placed the arrows they had prepared in advance on the front row and fired it. Edwin said, "My stupid decision has created this situation. A pathetic fellow, an idiot. As a commander, I should have maintained my composure until the end, but I lost my judgment for a moment at the sight of Butler falling. No, it's not over yet. We'll save Butler and close the gates. There's still a chance of winning." Edwin fired a fireball, shouting, "Flare rune." The fireball landed near the Cairo soldiers. The magician at Castle Wall shouted, "Help the prince." They launched multiple fireballs at the Cairo soldiers. Count Fabius shouted, "Spread wide and dash. If you miss this opportunity where the gates are open, we will lose more life." Kellen, a knight of Hector, who was in charge of the rear position, expressed anger at the situation in front of him. Witnessing the situation, he wanted to close the gates immediately, but the soldiers were still fighting Roman.
"We need to close the gate quickly. Hurry faster." Soldiers were carrying Butler's body. They shouted, "Butler is here! Close the gates!" Roman saw the opportunity and dashed with the full speed towards the gates. Cullen noticed Roman in the form of Red Shadow. He shouted from above, "No, stop him!" Roman was moving very fast and his eyes were glowing with the purple aura. Soldiers were standing at the gate to stop Roman from entering the castle. One of them said, "Activate the defense spell as soon as you close the gate." Another soldier shouted, "Roman Dimitri!" Roman attacked the soldiers with his aura blast. There was a big explosion at the gate. Only one shadow figure was visible at the gate. As the smoke cleared, Roman shouted and enhanced his voice with mana. "The gates are open!" His voice echoed throughout the battlefield. "Charge! Destroy the people of Hector!" Count Fabius ordered the troops with loud voice. "Take care of all the remnants of Hector's army." Both armies rushed at each other. Real war was over now. Only bloodshed of Hector army lays ahead. Roman's personal army didn't let anyone flee from the Hector army. Land was filled with blood. The operation to open the gates is a success. Now we have one goal left, Roman thought while moving forward in the castle. Roman's gaze turned to one person. Edwin Hector. Roman thought, "Edwin Hector, you are the only one left." Roman was standing face to face in front of Edwin. In this oppressive situation, Edwin Hector felt confused. He thought, where did it go wrong? The plan was perfect. Just by subduing the enemies in the rear position with a surprise attack, he thought that he made the right decision. It was then Roman Dimitri appeared. It's all because of him. Edwin Hector was full of rage and red aura covered his whole body as he looked at Roman Dimitri. Right. Roman Dimitri. It is all because of him. There was no other reason. Roman Dimitri defended the 5th defensive line, which was supposed to be taken as planned. With his guerrilla operation, Roman led the troops to defeat the Hector Kingdom. As a result, thousands of the Hector Kingdom soldiers died. If God existed, he wanted to ask him one thing. He made himself known as the Star of Hector. Then why did he send Roman Dimitri to the Cairo Kingdom? Roman said in taunting voice. At last we finally meet again, Edwin replied. Yes, finally we meet again. He raised his mana. Hearing the screams of soldiers from all directions, Edwin Hector knew that it would be difficult to return alive. But he had no intention of dying so helplessly. Even if I die, Roman Dimitri, you will be my companion to the underworld. He opened the magic circles. Edwin Hector risked his life. The magic circles opened. To be precise, it assimilated with nature in a state most receptive to mana. It was the magic of the magicians. As a result of being unable to use magic for a while, Edwin Hector had more power than before. Wind Blade! The first to react was Edwin Hector. Seeing Roman Dimitri rushing to him, he raised the wind blade and immediately attempted to attack. It was an invisible and intangible power. But Roman could easily sense the wind blade, assess its direction, and dodge it quickly. When the attack was blocked, the knights of Hector rushed in. Die! Protect the prince! Aura exploded all over. It was a situation where both sides wanted something. Edwin Hector knew better than to try to have a fair fight. Dealing with Roman Dimitri was his top priority, regardless of the means. Herbivore. He made a single blow. He increased his mana from his Dantian. As soon as the Heavenly Demon Sword technique was released, Roman used his aura to cut down all the enemies. All the knights died at once. It was truly spectacular. Despite this sight, Edwin Hector and his soldiers weren't shocked. As they observed Roman's progress all this time, they knew they didn't have to be shocked at this. Entangle! Edwin Hector controlled a tree trunk with a wave of his hand to limit Roman's movement, and made sure the archers could fire. Then he immediately began to cast a follow-up attack. Inferno! It was powerful fire magic. It was the fourth magic circle. In terms of damage, this magic had tremendous explosive power. It was like a dragon's breath. Just being near it was enough to melt the skin, and even Roman Dimitri wouldn't be able to survive it. But Roman cut the fire with his sword. Lightning blade! He wasn't going to back down. A bright light flashed. He cast his most powerful magic, and only had one target. The bundle of lightning fired away from Edwin's hands. Did I finish him? After casting the spell, he felt a strong tingling sensation in his hand. At the cost of countless lives, he thought he had finally taken down Roman. Merging from the lightning, Roman rushed to Edwin Hector. Even in the eyes of people like Edwin Hector, Roman's movement had transcended human limits. He appeared in a flash behind Edwin. Edwin Hector, I will acknowledge you. But this is the end. When Edwin heard these words, and turned around, Roman swung the sword. It was an attack that the magician's body couldn't respond to. This time, the moment he thought it was done, Roman sensed a strange movement. Blood splashed. Prince! It was Kellen. He followed Roman from the gates and tried to stop him, but he was unable to stand back as Edwin was in danger. His chest was brutally impaled by Roman's sword. Blood splashed. Edwin Hector's expression turned pale. Please, please! Run! Kellen spit out blood. His eyes were losing focus. It felt like Edwin was losing his mind. Edwin shouted in loud voice. Kellen! No! His eyes turned red. He has seen many of his comrades die from Roman's hand. Roman, witnessing this, said, That's pathetic. But I'll let you follow him soon. As Roman was going to behead Edwin Hector's soldiers rushed at Roman to save Edwin. They attacked Roman, but Roman easily blocked their attack. Then Edwin Hector's body was pushed back. It was Jackson. As Edwin groaned and tried to shake off his hand, Jackson shouted, Do you want to die here? The people gave their lives to save their prince, their only prince, Edwin Hector. You deserve to live, so survive until the end. Even if you are labeled a coward and a loser, survive so that the sacrifices of those who cared for you are not in vain. Everyone retreat! Give up the fort! The order to retreat echoed across the battlefield. Roman followed Jackson. As Hector's soldiers attacked Roman to buy time for them to escape, he slashed them down. Edwin Hector widened his eyes. Jackson was crying, and Kellen was wounded. Everything was a mess. He couldn't think clearly in this whirlwind of emotions he'd never felt before. Only one thought appears in his mind: Roman Dmitri is the devil. Right behind him, he could hear his men dying. The Ranger unit received orders from Jackson, and when told to buy time, they threw away their lives. Still, they couldn't stop Roman. The man was a 3-star swordsman. "This is a battle you already won. Why are you doing this?" He wanted to know his intentions. Roman said, "I clearly warned you. The moment we meet again, I will kill all of you. This war started because you crossed the border, so stop crying like you are the victim." Roman immediately went for his head. The captain fell. After that, Roman shouted with loud and dominating voice, "The war was over. Hector's army have all retreated. Victory for Cairo. Where is Roman Dmitri?" They had to meet and congratulate Cairo's hero, who led them to victory. Count Fabius hurried his steps. The other nobles followed him so they wouldn't lose. As they climbed the stairs of the fort wall, they witnessed a shocking sight. There were corpses everywhere. The grounds were littered with dead bodies, and blood splashed everywhere, even on the walls. Roman Dmitri was there, drenched in blood from the fierce battle he had fought, and with countless corpses lying near him. They realized right away that these dead bodies were the work of Roman Dmitri. They knew he was strong, but when they checked the result here, they felt goosebumps rise. They suddenly thought, the existence that overturned the war that seemed impossible to overcome, Roman Dmitri's value will soar to the sky in the future. Their prediction was right. Not long after, the shocking news that he had achieved victory swept throughout the Cairo kingdom. Roman looked at them with glowing eyes covered with blood and said, "They are finally here." This episode ends here. If you want next part, please like and comment. Cairo's grand victory. The people of the south cheered enthusiastically, but far away, in the capital of Cairo, it was different. "Did you hear the news?" "What?" "I heard that the Hector kingdom crossed the border and attacked the southern front. According to the merchants coming from the south, the situation was bad. I was worried that I could be conscripted for it. Men who aren't yet in their 50s should perform their national duties in case of an emergency, remember? Even if the Kronos Empire attacks, nothing will happen, so why would we be called if Hector attacks? They can't raise taxes just for the war budget. How can this country not have a peaceful day? If I had been born a member of the Kronos Empire, I wouldn't have been this anxious. The plight of a small country is truly pitiful." They only murmured over a passing conversation at that time, and they continued to live a normal life that was no different from other days. But they didn't know that the Hector kingdom crossed the border with 10,000 troops, and Cairo's hero was born in a very unfavorable situation when the rear positions were captured. If they knew that Roman Dmitri defeated Butler, the 5-star swordsman, they would have been more shocked. Yet that news didn't reach the capital. When people were spending their normal days at that time, a gust of wind from the south was slowly approaching the capital. At that time, on the same day, in Cairo Royal Academy's Class D, the last practice match was being held for the swordsmanship test. Next up, William Castro and Lauren Dmitri. The professor called the students. In an instant, joy and happiness were divided. William Castro burst into laughter with confidence, while Lauren Dmitri sat alone thinking. William Castro was infamous in Class D. With a promotion to Class C almost confirmed, Lauren Dmitri knew that he had no chance of winning here. But what could he do? The professor had called for the two, and if he didn't go through, he would be expelled. Start. The signal was given. William Castro rushed ahead as if waiting for it. He was confident he could win this battle. Lauren Dmitri was unable to react to the opponent's attacks. It was a one-sided fight. Lauren Dmitri was busy defending against the wooden sword, which attacked him from all directions, and William Castro showed off the swordsmanship he had learned. William Castro was as a giant compared to Lauren. Knowing he was going to win, he began swinging his sword back and forth at Lauren. Then, seeing him groan and clutch his back, William Castro mumbled in a low voice so the professor wouldn't hear. "Retard. The wooden sword pierced his back. It was the attack that ended the match. Lauren Dimitri, who had been unilaterally toyed with for 5 minutes, screamed and fell to the ground. He couldn't raise his head. William smirked and stepped back. Lauren couldn't look up at William, but he knew his friends were cheering. The humiliation didn't end there. Announcing the duel's result, the professor spoke in a cold voice. Lauren Dimitri, what did I say in the last class? Your biggest problem is that you do not have the mindset of a swordsman. It is like a guy who entered the academy to learn the sword and decides to close his eyes before even looking at the opponent's sword. Pathetic. If the test shows the same performance as today, it would be better to prepare to head down to Class E. Class E was for those who were under the age of 15. If that happened, it would be obvious how people would look at the 18-year-old Lauren. He clenched his fists. Lauren Dimitri didn't have the courage to scream or the strength to get up. The duel was over. Lauren, who was relaxing outside the class, held his breath while William and his party enter. Lauren is here, they said. I mean, it is amazing. I had a chance to meet the Class S senior in the past, and Rodwell Dimitri Sr. was so amazing to watch that I admired him. At that time, I wasn't so familiar with the world, so I thought the Dimitri family was all great. But so what? For that, there is a limit to being born in the world. People call it a miracle that someone like Rodwell Dimitri was born into the Dimitri family. The truth is, it is quite natural to go back and forth from the bottom like that. Isn't that right? There is nothing we can do with the limitations of birth, but it is like trying to do something we cannot. Lauren bowed his head. He acted as if he couldn't hear him. It was like this every time. Being Rodwell's younger brother, the shadow was thick. Lauren Dimitri had a fragile personality, and couldn't say anything since he entered the academy. No fun. I know. Was it because he lost interest? The topic changed. But is it true that Roman Dimitri defeated Homer? I assure you that it has to be a rumor spread by the Dimitri family itself. Dimitri is a descendant of a wealthy family that rose to power. How would they deal if the eldest was famous for being a jerk? His reputation would have to be so bad that they would need to spread rumors. 2 miracles do not happen in one family. Look, you can tell by looking at Lauren Dimitri. Again, the arrow of comparison continued to fly. It was always the same. The third son of Dimitri, Lauren Dimitri, gulped back his emotions. It was a hard day for Lauren Dimitri. The class ended, and Lauren Dimitri went out into the streets. If he didn't breathe fresh air, it felt like his emotions would explode. Is the news about Brother Roman true? Roman Dimitri's shocking actions were known even in the capital. Defeating Homer at the age of just mid-20s was staggering, and people said a new miracle was born within the Dimitri family. The problem was that Lauren Dimitri, of the same blood, couldn't accept it. Contrary to popular opinion, some people were saying that Roman could be stronger than what the rumors said, but thinking about the past, he was sure that couldn't be the case. Dimitri's fool, it wasn't a nickname given for nothing. At least, it was what Lauren Dimitri remembered of his brother, who lived without a worry about the world. I remember that Brother Roman isn't a bad person, at least not to me. Ha! He sighed. And it was then that, from afar, people flocked, making a commotion. Whisper. What is happening? He wanted to forget his complicated thoughts at that moment. As he stepped through the crowd, people lined up on either side, waiting for someone. Is that really true? I am sure. My relatives live in the south, and they miraculously defeated them and reclaimed the south when it almost got taken by the Hector kingdom. Do you know what is even more insane? In the process, Roman Dimitri did really absurd things. Roman Dimitri? The youngest ranker who defeated Homer? Yes, it is still unconfirmed, but there is a saying that he defeated the Hector kingdom with just 200 troops. Not only that, there are testimonies that he defeated Butler, the 5-star swordsman of Hector, in the Battle of Great Warriors, but I didn't believe that yet as it sounded surreal. The people around him were saying things. Lauren's eyes widened. He heard about the war with Hector. The academy had many kids from noble families, and he overheard them when they were talking. But even though he defeated the Hector kingdom, the details were too shocking. Is it true that they are talking about the Brother Roman that I know? Brother Roman defeated the Hector kingdom with just 200 troops, and as if that wasn't enough, he also defeated Butler of the Hector kingdom? This is too much. The rumors were exaggerated. Defeating Homer itself was unbelievable. Meanwhile, hearing the news from the south, Lauren Dmitri didn't know how to react. He was shocked. Get out of the way! They are the heroes of the south! Open the way! The reason people flocked was to welcome the triumphant soldiers. At the sight of the guards raising their voices while walking in front of them, the people were cheering. Among the people walking, Lauren felt too dumbfounded. Until his eyes widened at the sight of a man moving ahead in the front on a stylish horse. Brother Roman? Roman Dmitri appeared in front of his eyes with cheers from people who looked very different from his own memories. A grand feast celebrating Roman's return was prepared. Even the nobles had given up all their pride, wanting to get Roman on their side. Roman Dmitri, I finally get to see you. I greet His Majesty. The nobles opened up a path for him. Even though he was a puppet king, they weren't stupid enough to be rude to the king in a place with so much attention. I wanted to express my sincere gratitude on behalf of the Cairo kingdom. You showed the will of Cairo against the Hector kingdom. You defeated Hector with daring courage and brought peace back to us. Is there anything you wish for? I will make sure to grant whatever you want to the best of my ability. It was time for a reward. It was the authority of a king, and everyone's attention was focused on Daniel Cairo's words. Before Roman Dmitri could speak, Daniel Cairo added, at the same time, the position of deputy commander for the Royal Knights is vacant. If you wish, I wouldn't mind granting you the title and giving you access to the royal treasury. You can take the wealth from there, or if you want, you can learn the knowledge of Cairo that has been kept for generations. What do you think? At those words, the hall turned cold. Daniel Cairo's words suggested that he had the intention of taking Roman in, and the nobles could no longer smile. To be given the title of Deputy Commander of the Royal Knights was a huge honor. Granting the position to someone still in their 20s has never happened before in the history of Cairo. Daniel Cairo said, the best sword of Cairo is the commander of the Royal Knights. Count Nicholas is looking for someone to succeed him. It would be an amazing chance for you. Even now, you have a talent that shines brighter than anyone else's. If you lead from ahead, you will be able to reach higher ground. There is no need to worry about fulfilling your national duty. Aside from the rewards, I intend to specifically waive your remaining obligations. He took over the throne at a young age due to his father's death. The nobles of the central government welcomed him and used him as a puppet for their benefit. That was their reason for treating him respectfully. Daniel Cairo was greedy for the first time. I want to make Roman Dmitri my vassal. The heads of the central government, like Marquis Benedict, started to put pressure on the king as soon as he acted as if he could be treated like a subordinate. The king felt like he was being suffocated. Cairo's people considered him their absolute ruler, but in reality, he was something else. Roman Dmitri defeated Butler, a 5-star swordsman. If I could take a person as strong as Count Nicholas as my vassal, even nobles wouldn't be pressing me in haste. From then on, the situation can be reversed. People call me the feeble and weak king, but I refuse to live like this forever. After this war, he began to think differently. Seeing the nobles take care only of themselves, even at the cost of the kingdom, he thought this wasn't right. He removed his weak side and bared his teeth for the first time. Right then, Marquis Benedict's angry voice could be heard. No one would consider the duty given as a reward. Your Majesty, the Royal Knights, as a military organization, are directly under the royal family. Are you going to force the young talent with a guaranteed future to sacrifice all that? Please take it into consideration. We need to reward our hero. I agree. I am fine with opening the royal treasury, but this isn't right. Objections were heard in the hall. The nobles of the central government stepped forward. Each of them added words, saying that Daniel Cairo's words weren't right. As the noble speculated, Roman might not be pleased with this proposal. However, since he already said it, he wasn't going to take it back. Marquis Benedict, I said what I wanted. From now on, it is up to Roman Dmitri to decide what he wants. He crossed the line. The king decided to stand his ground, unlike his usual self. For a moment, Marquis Benedict's expression distorted, but Daniel Cairo didn't mind and looked at Roman. Everyone looked at him. If Roman said he would follow Daniel Cairo, the Cairo kingdom would fall into chaos and terror. The king's proposal was surprising. Daniel Cairo, whom Roman remembered as a feeble king, looked at him with unwavering eyes. Still, is it because of his royal blood? The public's opinion of Daniel Cairo as a fragile king might be far from the truth. He had no choice but to bow his head under pressure ever since he was young and was labeled weak. There was finally a chance to change this. But there is no reason for me to take the side of the Cairo royal family. So Roman said. This war made me realize that the world is wide. The Royal Knights is an honorable organization for a swordsman, but before I decide on my future, there are things I want to do. What could they be? Daniel asked. It was an obvious refusal. Daniel Cairo didn't hide his feelings. After the war, I realized that I'm just a frog in a well. If I get out of our country and go into the world, I'd be a nobody. That is why I need time to prepare myself before I go into a larger world. Once my preparations are complete. He raised his head. Purple aura covered his whole body. He spoke of his future plans to those who were watching him. I will be challenging the open ranking competition of the Cairo Kingdom. I'd like to challenge rank number 99 to 1, to fully test my limits. Public ranking. At those words, everyone's eyes trembled. The public ranking match? Yes? The public ranking represents an endless challenge that tests one's limits. You duel until you lose, and the place where you finally kneel is your ranking. The problem is that this isn't something to talk about lightly. The more one tests the limit, the more intense the fights become, and you might lose your life. Who would want to be a victim of the public ranking? Everyone wanted to avoid endless challenges. Nevertheless, Roman Dimitri's declaration showed how confident he was. Even if he is in a situation where he can enjoy wealth and fame, he would want to give everything up to take on the new challenge. Daniel Cairo admired Roman Dimitri even though there wasn't much of an age difference between them. Although he hadn't yet fully experienced the world, Roman Dimitri took a different step. As expected from the hero of Cairo. You made a great decision. With this, the ranking in Cairo will change. You are now a man known as the one who defeated Butler of the Hector Kingdom. Who can stop you now? I am already looking forward to it. The nobles responded with interest. Roman turned down the offer to become a royal knight, but at the same time, he wanted to prove his worth. However, that wouldn't stop them. And Roman is still in his mid-20s. We can find out his true level through the public ranking. It would be an open competition, and Roman took advantage of it. He raised his value and ignited the competitive spirit of those who coveted him. Roman said, "In the near future, I will present myself in front of everyone, and then I will decide on what to do next." At that, everyone accepted it immediately. Daniel Cairo, who offered him a position in the Royal Knights, and the other three nobles believed that the ambiguous answer was directed at them. However, there was no truth to that. When the public ranking matches were done, Roman Dimitri would not be someone's sword, but he would be someone who would play the lead. Marquis Benedict called Roman after the party. Marquis Benedict, who was already slightly drunk, poured him a glass of alcohol and asked, "Life sure is full of surprises. I sent you to the southern front, wanting to take care of you, but the Hector Kingdom had declared war. Surprisingly, you stopped it and turned into a hero." Roman held the glass which was already full. Roman drank it while looking at Marquis Benedict. "Thanks for the great experience." "Great experience?" "Yes. Through the war with the Hector Kingdom, I learned that the world I knew wasn't everything, so I decided to do the public ranking matches to test how strong I am in the Cairo Kingdom. When I am finally convinced that there is no one above me, I want to be the best on the continent. The best on the continent, a dream tailored for your age. He took another sip. Marquis Benedict also once dreamed of being the best. However, the continent was a place full of monsters beyond his imagination, and the day he faced reality, he decided that he would live a nice life in the Cairo kingdom. He stopped his childish dream of becoming the best when he attained a position and gained power in the central government. Although he didn't live a decent life, he was still considered someone with great power in Cairo. Marquis Benedict said, I have one daughter. Because her mother died really young, I put in even more effort into raising her. I will give my daughter to you. He put down his glass. Anyone who knew Marquis Benedict realized that the meaning of those words wasn't light. Roman got surprised hearing these words. I told Fabius that you are not naive. Listening to your accomplishments and the way you spoke about going to fights in front of so many, I was reminded of the monsters of the continent I met when I was young. I am sure of it. I am not born with great abilities as others are, but at least I have the ability to recognize that the guy named Roman Dmitri will be comparable to them. I know you had a broken engagement. I wouldn't have proposed the marriage without knowing it. Neither do I intend to force you on my daughter. However, it means that I am willing to arrange the meeting so the two of you can meet, and if it works, move ahead. He was drinking too much. Hearing the news that Butler had been defeated, Roman's status changed. I will not ask you to meet my daughter right now. As I said before, you will need plenty of time to move ahead. As always, I, Marquis Benedict, will have your back. If you take my hand and say that you will side with me in the future, you will get everything you want in the Cairo kingdom. Marriage to the Benedict family meant that he could inherit the powers of the house, and it proved how Marquis Benedict's desire for Roman was strong. With that, the drinking talks ended. Marquis Benedict's proposal had one clear conclusion. Roman Dmitri. Whoever possesses him will be devouring the Cairo kingdom. His existence disrupted the balance of power. Perhaps the thoughts of other nobles weren't much different. Roman was contacted by Count Gregory and Count Denver afterward. The offers of the forces that divided the Cairo kingdom were great. Daniel Cairo offered the position of deputy commander of the Royal Knights. Marquis Benedict proposed marriage. And the offers of Count Gregory and Denver were equally convincing. Both offers were extravagant. People thought Daniel Cairo's proposal was shocking, but when they looked at the whole picture, the other three nobles put everything on the line. Roman was that strong. However, Roman Dmitri, who is also the heavenly demon, Baek Jung-hyuk, was a person who cannot live under someone. Roman's accommodation in the capital was extravagant. The royal family and the nobles in the central government paid extra attention to it. Thus, Roman and his men were able to stay in a good place with their help. And when he finally arrived, Hans greeted Roman. Young master! He was the same as always. Hans followed closely with his short legs and gave Roman his robe. I heard you had a hard time on the southern front. Did you get hurt? You don't know how much my heart shook when I heard the news. Still, I am glad you are safe. I'm fine. Are you certain? Hans asked with tears in his eyes. This young man was seriously such a good person. And a few days later, Roman heard something unexpected from Hans. Young master, I might be stepping out of line, but could you please meet young Master Lauren? Hans arrived at the capital before Roman. As he was in the accommodation given by the royal family in advance, he suddenly met someone. Young Master Lauren? Hans. It was Lauren Dmitri. He entered the estate with a youthful face, lingered around Hans, and asked a few things. At first, it was about how the family was. Hans, who raised both young masters since they were young, could tell at a glance, young Master Lauren is going through some trouble. So he waited for him to tell him about it. After a long, meaningless conversation, Lauren Dmitri spoke in a cautious voice. Hans, please feel free to speak your mind, Hans said with a smile. Did anything special happen to Brother Roman when I was away? No, Brother Roman never had any interest in swordsmanship, but now I just saw him return to the capital, being escorted by guards. According to the people, Brother Roman defeated a ranker of the Hector kingdom. He hesitated a lot when speaking. He didn't believe it. Despite witnessing it with his own eyes and hearing it himself, Lauren Dmitri couldn't accept that Roman had changed. Hans answered. A lot of things happened to young Master Roman when young Master Lauren left. I think that rumors must have spread too. The marriage with the Lawrence house was broken off, and a war was waged by the Barco house. He defeated Homer, and this time he went to the southern front and made impossible things happen. The people who knew young Master Roman might think of it as a lie, but all of that isn't filled with even an inch of a lie. Thanks to the changed path of young Master Roman, Lord Romero has been happy these days. Why not meet him in person instead of talking like this? I heard that he would come here in the evening. If you meet him in person, you will be able to see how he has changed. At Hans's suggestion, Lauren averted his gaze. No, it is fine. He had a puzzled expression. He said he was fine, but he was constantly observing Hans' reaction and was hesitating to say something else. Finally, Lauren didn't state his purpose. Hesitating till the end, he left and told Hans he had work to do. Hans had been with Dmitri for many years. Most of the time, he had devoted himself to Roman, but over the years, he knew the inclinations and behaviors of the other young masters too. Something is wrong. Lauren Dmitri was a gentle-hearted person. The 3 sons of Dmitri were born with different characters. Hans noticed it. If Lauren Dmitri had come to visit him, he must have been going through something serious. So he looked into it. It seems like young Master Lauren is being bullied by his classmates at the academy. Even in the old days, young Master Lauren would fall down and break his knee or scrape it, but not once had he said anything about being in pain. However, such a person came to me and asked about you, young Master Roman. I think he wanted to ask for help, but I didn't have the liberty to ask what the problem was. Lauren Dmitri, he is the youngest among us. I don't have to take care of him just because he is a younger brother. Baek Jung-hyuk was cruel to his brothers and killed anyone who threatened his life while he was ascending to the top. On the contrary, he readily accepted new connections, like Hans and Baron Romero, who gave him positive feelings. He wanted to meet Lauren so he could judge him in person. Just because he had Dimitri's name, Roman had no plans of helping Lauren. I understand. I will meet him. Young master! Hans smiled broadly. Roman thought that since this was Hans' request, he would grant it. While Roman was resting, someone was taking action. Recruiting Roman Dmitri has been postponed indefinitely. However, there is still a way to score points from Baron. It was Count Fabius. He tried to get Roman on his side, but he couldn't believe what Roman said at the feast. Due to this, he came up with a new plan. People are all recruiting Roman Dmitri, but in fact, his subordinates are also formidable. It was frustrating at first. Dmitri is a family on the outskirts, and it is hard to find people as talented as them, even in the capital. If we can convince them, Marquis Benedict will surely be pleased. Count Fabius carefully observed the battlefield during the war. As soon as the order to help Roman was issued, his men slaughtered the enemies with an overwhelming force. Well, if I hadn't gone to the southern front line myself, I wouldn't have known that though. They are definitely worth recruiting. If I manage to bring Chris and all the other subordinates of Roman to our side, I just might be able to gain the trust of the Marquis sooner. It was like killing 2 birds with 1 stone. He kept smiling and thought his plan was perfect. Roman gave Chris and his men a vacation. After the fierce war, they were all entitled to be paid and have some time to enjoy themselves. So the soldiers went their separate ways and enjoyed their break. Chris remained on the training ground alone. It was impossible for him to rest when he thought about the war. When I first met the Lord, he was clearly someone I could reach. So I promised myself that I would surpass him in a very short time, but in the same short time, the Lord managed to reach a different level than me. The battle with Butler was shocking. For most people, it was common sense for Roman to lose, but Chris believed that Roman would win, and as expected, Butler was brutally defeated. He was a 5-star swordsman, which the Hector kingdom was proud of. Such a man lost against Roman Dmitri, who wasn't much different from him half a year ago. How was that possible? He tried to understand it, but he couldn't think of an answer. What is certain is that I am developing rapidly with the Lord. I just need to look at the back of my Lord and follow him. I also experienced tremendous growth in the last half year. I still don't understand the situation I am in. The Lord is showing a speedy development which makes no sense, and all the knowledge he tells me is priceless. His choice was right. He was convinced that he could develop much more by following Roman Dmitri, and he didn't want to stop at the little growth that he had. He knew the moment he showed negligence, Roman Dmitri would head into a world beyond his reach. The goal was to defeat him utterly. So, even though everyone had left for their vacation, he stayed behind at the training ground and swung his sword. And it was then. "Are you Chris?" It was a familiar voice. He turned his head. Count Fabius was looking at Chris with a friendly smile. There was no reason to drag the conversation any longer, so Count Fabius just stated his purpose. "I want to hire you, Chris. If you come to our side." "No need." Chris refused without even listening the full offer. He abruptly stopped talking. Fabius's face was contorted. "No, you didn't even listen to it. Well, I am acquainted with Marquis Benedict, the head of the nobles and the central government. Living in the Cairo kingdom, you cannot imagine how a great opportunity this is. This is your chance to change your life. What do you want? Money? Mr. Chris, we can give you money enough for you to live for the rest of your life. Honor? There is no other greater honor than serving Marquis Benedict in the Cairo kingdom. If you wish to become a noble in the future, the Marquis will personally grant you a title. Just say anything. There is nothing we cannot offer you in Cairo." Count Fabius continued. "If you are concerned about betraying Roman Dmitri, do not worry about that. Roman Dmitri will always be a follower of Marquis Benedict. We are going to make sure that it happens. Would it be a problem if you joined us early? This is only a matter of precedence. Will you follow Roman Dmitri later and come to us, or join hands now and earn our trust? That is the difference." Chris snickered at Count Fabius's proposal. If this was half a year ago, maybe there was a chance, but now, his mind wouldn't accept anything else. "How are you sure that my lord will come to Marquis Benedict? Isn't that obvious? Even in the Hector kingdom, no one can deny that man's power." It was funny that Count Fabius knew nothing about Roman Dmitri. The man Chris had been following wasn't the type to bow his head. Even if he had to join hands with a compromise, he would rather risk war than bow to someone. Chris was sure of Roman's statements that he would rise to the top of the continent. So the words of Count Fabius were wrong. Chris said, "No matter what the conditions are, I have no intention to leave the side of my lord. You say Marquis Benedict can do a lot for me, but I assure you that no one can give me another lord." With Roman's teachings and new worldly knowledge, he couldn't measure the value of what he had already received. Above all, Chris didn't want to make a choice that would disappoint Roman. What if Roman didn't choose Marquis Benedict? "If you say that, well..." He took a step back. He wanted to express his fury and insist, but attacking the people of Roman without a plan wasn't good. While taking a few steps, Chris added, "If you want to convince my other colleagues, then just give up. No one will make a choice against the will of our Lord." Until then, Count Fabius really had no intention of listening to Chris. Chris was right. The next target was Kevin. Seeing him move like a ghost on the battlefield, he made the same suggestion. "But do not ever make such offers to me again. To me, my lord is everything in life. If the Lord says he will follow Marquis Benedict, I will lay my life down for him, but if I turn my back on him and force him to choose someone else, I'd rather just wish for death. Do not test me." He was pretty aggressive. Just the thought of Roman made the guy suppress his anger, and Kevin seemed quite annoyed at the offer. It didn't end there. The next targets were Pookie and Vulcan. They were mercenaries that shocked everyone, including him, with their exceptional skills. "Has this been discussed with the Lord? I have no intention of making a choice against my lord. So I will pretend that this conversation never happened. Count Fabius, I am very well aware of your condition. However, If we hadn't met our Lord, we would be nothing, so we cannot imagine ever betraying him. Fabius made it clear to them that it wouldn't be a betrayal. Even though he told them it was just a matter of time before Roman joined, no one wanted to accept his offer. Finally, he thought that Henderson, the most common of the men, would react nicely, but the guy simply covered his ears and avoided his gaze. He completely ignored him and didn't respond to anything he said. "Why are you so loyal?" Suddenly he felt more curious about this man called Roman. At that time, Laurent Dmitri was still training during his break. He clenched his teeth and struck at the dummy. He was projecting William Castro's image onto the dummy, and unlike the practice match, he was able to accurately aim for the vital points. He made clean and neat attacks. In real life, he was a mess, but in virtual battles like this, Laurent Dmitri had fairly strong sword movements. He was so busy training that even though the sun began to set, he didn't stop. He was out of breath. He remembered Hans' words. "How can I lie to the young master?" Thanks to young Master Roman's changed behavior, Lord Romero has been happy lately. Among those words, the one about his father being happy stuck in his mind. What happened to Brother Roman? Laurent trusted Hans. Hans wasn't a liar and knew Roman Dmitri better than anyone, so such rumors could not be false. But there was a limit to how much change people could accept. The Roman whom Laurent remembered was an irreparable idiot, and now his reputation, which has changed, was the polar opposite. Cairo's hero, the youngest ranker, and the genius swordsman who defeated Butler, it didn't make sense. If Rodwell Dmitri had done this, he might have simply accepted it, but this was Roman. Brother Roman was able to change. Then why am I still pathetic? Maybe Laurent once thought that he was better than Roman. It was okay to fall behind because there was the trash of the Dmitri family behind him, but he was now the pathetic underdog. He swung the sword. His arms were trembling, yet he forced them to move. Then, he lost his balance and fell to the ground. Laurent Dmitri lay down as he gulped down his cries while looking up at the dummy, imagining William. "Just as pathetic as I've always been." He swung his wooden sword one last time with full force. After that he was so tired that he laid on the training ground breathing heavily. His face was sweating due to training. "What are you doing here?" He heard a familiar yet unfamiliar voice. Laurent Dmitri raised his head and saw his brother, who looked different from what he remembered. There was no need to explain the circumstances. He was the typical figure of a loser. Roman said with no warmth in his voice. "I heard from Hans that you had come to find me. If you have something to say, say it now." He answered. "It was nothing." Laurent avoided his gaze. The situation was embarrassing for him. His face flushed red when he thought Roman had watched him as he struggled to overcome reality. Pathetic boy. Roman took a step back as he spat those words. He had no intention of helping Laurent. At the sight of Roman, who was about to leave, Laurent regretted it, and for a moment, without even thinking about it, Laurent shouted, "Brother Roman! I will tell you why I came to see you, brother. I will tell you everything." He finally mustered up some courage to reveal his shameful condition. Roman stopped walking and looked at Laurent. Laurent said, "I overheard people talking about the rumors that brother defeated the Hector kingdom and saved the southern front. I didn't quite believe it at first. The brother I remember wasn't interested in swordsmanship, and in the first place, even if he were asked to go for military duty, he would avoid it. Was it a year ago? But while we didn't meet, you changed. The Roman Dmitri, who was in a similar situation to me, has disappeared and been reborn into a new being called Cairo's hero. How can you be this different? I am aware of my brother and myself. It is well known that people from the outskirts do not have the same talent as Brother Rodwell and do not achieve success. At the very least, my brother and I were the types of people who couldn't live up to the expectations of those around us." He found it hard to talk about his feelings for the first time. The emotions that he had bottled up for a long time overflowed. "I am the shy kind. I followed my brother Rodwell to the capital to live up to my father's expectations, but I couldn't do anything until he was promoted to Class S. I also want to be a son that my father is proud of. Always pretending to be fine and pretending to be good. It isn't that I am forced to smile, but I really want to show some results." He cried with his head bowed and shoulders dropping in a sorrowful manner. It was a look that even the original Roman wouldn't have expected. Lauren cried for a long time. He was a sensitive child. He was still 18 years old and wasn't ready to handle the weight of reality. How should I treat Lauren? A new life. The people in this place have accepted the new Roman. They decided to not hand out Roman's old image and decided to give him a second chance. Just as other people accepted his new self, he didn't discriminate against the new relationship they now had. I have no feelings for Lauren. The same goes for Rodwell. The identity of the eldest and second son is always complicated, but even so, it isn't good to be hostile to Rodwell. Lauren or Rodwell, my evaluation of them will be based on my own experience and not on the original memories. This was Roman's way of living a new life. It was a new standard. Since this life wasn't originally his, Roman showed tolerance for accepting a new life. Lauren. Yes? He called his sibling. Still, he had no affection for him. Just because he had gone through the same hardships as Roman, there was no need to give him special care. But I don't want to see people with the same last name as I ignored. That would undermine the reputation of the family and mine. You said you were wondering how I got to where I am. If you want an answer, prove that you are worthy of knowing. I heard that there would be a swordsmanship test soon. In that test, show what happens when one ignores the name Lauren Dmitri. For once, he gave him a chance. Unlike in his previous life, where his siblings were killed for having the same last name, Roman gave Lauren a chance. It was up to him now. If he proved himself, he would accept him as his brother. But if he didn't, there would not be many opportunities to talk to Roman in the future. The time had come for the swordsmanship test. The students gathered at the training ground, and the professor looked at their faces before proceeding with the test. I was told to prove myself if I want an answer. It was strange. His head felt clear. It had been a long time since he had felt this way. Even though he didn't get any answers, his mind felt at peace. I'm starting the test right now. First, the students, who were called one after another, competed against each other. Happiness was divided. Some rejoiced, and some were saddened. How much time had passed before the professor turned to Lauren? Lauren! He got up and... William! He faced his opponent. Even as William Castro got up with a smile, Lauren didn't feel the least bit anxious. Life sure is funny to be put up against you again. I will make sure to crush you thoroughly this time. The Castro family was the elite of the central government. William Castro's father was a supporter of nobles, and having lived in the capital from a young age, he had been elite. There was something his father always said. It was that a person had a limit since birth, and their use was determined based on where they were born. The professor said, "The evaluation criteria for the test isn't victory or defeat. We will evaluate how well the teachings have melted into your body, so refrain from making extreme attacks. Now then, I will start the test." The signal was given. As soon as the test started, William Castro aimed at him, and there was no time to think. Lauren couldn't even respond to normal attacks, so he decided to end this with a bold move. The attack was blocked. Lauren raised his sword. His expression was distorted due to the overwhelming physical difference. Even though he could block the attack, it wasn't easy for his body to take in the shock of the attack. William Castro didn't stop and said, "I will end you." He continued to attack, and Lauren got pushed. It was an overwhelming power. There was no way Lauren, the weakest person here, could handle William's attack. This was expected. Not once did he fight back. William Castro backed his opponent into a corner, and immediately saw that Lauren's stance was off. "It is over." His chest was open. He was thinking of hitting him down. If any bones were broken, Lauren wouldn't think about staying in the academy any longer. He lowered his sword. And it was then that Lauren tilted his head forward. Even though the wooden sword would hit his head at this rate, he looked up at William Castro while remembering Roman words. Lauren clenched his teeth at the tense situation. At the same time, he swung the sword with his full power toward William's face. Lauren managed to hit William Castro in the jaw. If you want to know if William got what he deserved or if Lauren get beaten once more, you should subscribe and comment for next part. It was for a brief moment. Lauren made a surprise attack and aimed it at his opponent's jaw, but William Castro withdrew his sword swiftly and was able to block it. There was definitely a reason why he was evaluated to be in Class D. He was humiliated. He almost got hit by Lauren. This was different than usual. Lauren, who couldn't show his skills properly due to his timid personality, was showing his will and determination this time. He didn't know what qualification Roman wanted, but if he proved his worth here by winning the test, he hoped to become like Roman Dimitri. Dimitri's fool, whose existence changed and was once ridiculed by people, ignited a flame in Lauren's heart. After talking to Roman, he found the strength to face his fears, so he pushed his body forward toward his opponent. Lauren tried to attack with confidence. William was blocking Lauren attacks. William Castro, whose expression distorted for a moment, began to strike down Lauren's sword with an angry face. Seriously? This bastard, for real? Began to strike down Lauren's sword with an angry face. The attack missed. Lauren rushed forward, evading William's attack and swing his sword aimed at William's head. That was it. He tried to attack, and this was the last scene Lauren remembered. When he opened his eyes, the surroundings were quiet. He wanted to get up and check the surroundings. It was a close match. It was the professor. He was in charge of the test. He let the students go and stayed behind on the training ground. A small difference. As William's attack was about to hit your head, you raised your arm quickly to block the attack. If you had failed to stop the attack, you wouldn't have ever woken up, even if it was a wooden sword, the professor said. Still, today you were pretty good. The Lauren Dimitri I watched wasn't lacking in talent. There's a lot of room for improvement, but you have always been scared and withdrawn, which kept you from performing at your best. So, I purposely put you up against William Castro. In the last spar in today's test, I knew that William would bully you, but I thought that you had to overcome this to become a swordsman. Lauren's eyes widened. The professor was stingy in giving praise. As he always pitted Lauren against Castro, Lauren assumed the man hated him. He wasn't expecting a compliment. Are you speaking the truth? Would I lie to a student? You need to trust yourself a little more. At your age, the tallest and most powerful kids might seem like the strongest ones in the world, but in reality, you and William aren't much different. Neither of you knows how to use aura. In the first place, if he had such overwhelming talent that you couldn't touch it, he should be up in Class S like your older brother instead of being in Class D, so do not be afraid of such things. Normally in swordsmanship, if you lose your cool, everything is lost. It was surprising. Lauren didn't know that his professor felt this way. Thank you very much. He suddenly wanted to see Roman. How would he rate this match? Damn it, it was William. He was enraged due to the match. Calm down! William, please calm down! His friends tried to stop him, but they could do nothing. William was a guy whose outbursts were unpredictable, even for those he considered friends. Lauren Dimitri, how dare you mock me? Lauren, how dare he looked at me with those eyes just because he picked up some courage? Well, this cannot last any longer. Lauren, I am going to break at least one of your arms. Do you have to go to that extent? Right. That is a bit much. Don't you know who Lauren Dimitri's older brother is? It is Roman Dimitri, who defeated the Hector kingdom and is now called Cairo's hero. If things go wrong, it will turn into a problem of families. It was Roman who represented the Dimitri family now, not Rodwell. His friends were right. But the immature child, who knew nothing of this world, looked down on the Dimitri family. Cairo's hero? What can they do if I touch Lauren? Would they be able to touch me? The eldest son of the Castro family? My father and Marquis Benedict have been friends since childhood. No matter what I do, no one in Cairo can touch me. The family of Castro was too powerful, so they couldn't disobey William. His eyes were blazing with rage and murderous intent. Even he is a hero. This is the limit of family line that you are born into. I will show them that nothing matters in front of true authority," he said. "Bring Lauren Dmitri to me right now. It's fine if you have to hit him to knock him out." His friends exchanged glances as they realized the decision had been made. It was then. "Say that again." Everyone turned their heads. Roman Dmitri. A man stood at the break room's entrance. The man with an unfamiliar face spoke with a cold expression. "Tell me again what you do to my sibling." They felt shocked. Even William Castro, who had been so confident till then, couldn't speak out hastily when he faced Roman. However, because the water had been spilled, William Castro spoke with poisonous, hateful eyes. "Right, I can tell you if you want. I said to bring the guy who doesn't know his place in front of me." "Grab." Roman reached out and grabbed William's coat. He couldn't escape. William's expression looked like he saw a ghost at what happened in an instant, and Roman looked down at him with cold eyes. Roman was so fast that no one saw when he passed them and reached out to William. "Do you know what mistake you made? Bullying is fine. Lauren is a kid who doesn't know what kind of background and power he has and is simply dumb, and I am not a nanny who is going to take care of him. Maybe I wouldn't have even stepped in if he was going to be bullied, as usual, but—" Lauren passed Roman's test. At least, from the moment he showed the will to fight, Roman accepted him as his younger brother. "The problem is that I saw it. I listened to all of you bully Lauren and look down on Dmitri. I am Roman Dmitri, and you ignored my family. Then, what prize should I get from you for those actions? Clench." He clenched his hands. William looked like he was going to faint. He couldn't even try to attack. All he did was swing his arms to try and escape. And he let go of him. "Bring me to your family estate right now." Seeing William inhaling and gasping with a pale face. "What did you say?" It was time. Roman wanted a cause. Now that the status of the Dmitri family was changing, an event worthy of it was needed. "I want to experience what real power is like. So guide me to your family right now. If an immature child makes a mistake, shouldn't the parents be responsible for that mistake?" On a lazy afternoon, Count Castro had tea with a person. "Are you saying everyone rejected you? Don't even ask. Even when I said gold and silver treasures would be given and a title of nobility too, not a single person blinked an eye." The person on the opposite side was Count Fabius. He, who had been on his feet till yesterday, complained about the situation, which didn't result in profit. "That is why I hate dealing with commoners. These guys don't even want success when the path is wide open. Be patient, Count. If they are born lowly, they must be unable to see even an inch ahead." Both the counts were members of the same noble side and had a good relationship. Since they had similar personalities, they were able to get close pretty fast and met often. Count Castro said, "But is Roman Dmitri that great?" "Yes." "Would Marquis Benedict risk his life to sign Roman Dmitri for nothing? I am saying this because I know you, Count, but there are also talks about making him his son-in-law." He was shocked. Marquis Benedict considered his daughter a treasure. If he was arranging for her to get married to Roman, then his value couldn't be less. "If you have a chance, set me up on a meeting with him." It was a friendly atmosphere. In the noble world, friendship was important. These small interactions eventually developed into a relationship that attracted and pushed each other. And right then, the sound of someone knocking on the door made Count Castro turn his attention. "What is it?" The door opened. Before the guards could even say anything, a man with a familiar face pushed himself inside. "Father!" He was William Castro. At first, they couldn't understand the situation. His son looked angry, and the man who followed could be recognized immediately as Roman Dmitri, whom he saw at the feast. "Why is Roman Dmitri here?" He looked at his son with suspicious eyes. And William Castro said in a voice brimming with anger, "Father, do you know what that man, Roman Dmitri, did to me? He is a mere commoner, and he dares to threaten me, the eldest son of the Castro family." At that moment, the atmosphere turned cold, and the anger wasn't directed at Roman. As he listened to his son, Count Castro couldn't hide his shock. Damn it. Normally, he would not have forgiven any man who touched his son, but it was a different story if the opponent was Roman Dmitri. I want you to punish him immediately. Shut up. His words were cut short, making William look at his father in shock. His father had never been this angry towards him till now. Father? William, do you know who you are talking about? Roman Dmitri is the hero who saved Cairo. Even if you don't have the utmost respect for him, how dare you say such nonsense? It was a different situation from what he expected. William Castro was shocked. Count Castro grabbed him by the neck and dragged him alone, and threw him in front of Roman. He deliberately threw his son and said, looking at Roman, I really apologize for these actions. I don't know what happened, but I will make certain that this does not happen again and that he is severely punished. Please let go of any anger. If you have some time to spare, how about a cup of tea with me? This was a slick way to change the topic. Having done this, no man would refuse the apology. And Count Castro had a smile, knowing this was a chance to make a connection with Roman. But Roman responded with a cold expression. To accept your apology or not is not for you to decide, that is for me to decide. Silence lingered. Count Castro looked bewildered, and Count Fabius held his breath at this. Count Castro was expecting his apology to be accepted. Even when such a noble bowed his head first, Roman Dmitri spoke in an aggressive voice. This is a problem that stems from the mistake made by your son, William Castro. William bullied my brother for no reason. If it was decent bullying, I wouldn't have gotten involved in their business. But today, he said he would break the arm of my brother, Loren Dmitri, right in front of me. What do you want me to do? What will you do if a man threatens to break your son's arm right in front of you? He was speechless. No, he didn't think that his son had touched his younger brother. Count Castro broke out in a cold sweat as he couldn't come up with an answer. Words exert their power the moment they are uttered. William was ready to put those words into action, and I can no longer stand by. So what will you do? You can't possibly break my son's arm, can you? In order to maintain a good relationship in the future, we must find a middle ground. Count Castro looked a bit angry. His son's mistake? He understood that if the opponent was Roman Dmitri, he was fine with apologizing. But Count Castro didn't like Roman's attitude, which was cornering a noble of the central government. Roman said, William must go to my brother, get down on both knees, and apologize. In front of everyone, speak about his wrongdoing and ask for forgiveness. After that, he should also drop out of the academy. I don't want scum like this guy in the same room as my brother. This was the statement that crossed the line. As Count Castro's anger was about to explode, Roman said one thing. If you don't like it, I am willing to go to war. Either go to war with my family or apply for a battle of great warriors right away. It felt like his mind had stopped working. The emotions swirling within were far too much to handle, and Count Castro doubted if he was really hearing this. The choice is yours, Count Castro. War with Castro? Count Castro said. This is why you lowborn are a problem. Roman Dmitri, do you think you became some great person just because you had the attention of Marquis Benedict? You are the eldest son of Dmitri, and just because you defeated Butler doesn't mean you can even reach the toes of the Castro family. Being a part of the central government means having a lot of power. His attitude changed. Well, the opponent crossed the line. No matter how friendly he wanted them to be, it wouldn't make sense to be patient now. It was a matter of pride for the nobles, and Marquis Benedict was someone who had been on his side longer than Roman. Count Fabius. Since you have been watching this situation from the start, I'd like to ask you something. If I harm Roman Dmitri right now, explain to Marquis Benedict how things happened. Roman Dmitri had crossed the line, and I had to punish him appropriately. In the world of nobles, justification was needed. His opponent was a person in whom Marquis Benedict was interested. It wasn't difficult to trample the opponent, but he had to prepare for what might happen next. And if it was Count Fabius, then he was the right witness. Not only did he have a way with words, but he was also close to him. But… Ahem. Count Fabius looked away after a couple coughs. As I watched the situation, it was clearly William's fault. Do you still want me as a witness? Count Castro, this isn't how things happen. If your son does something wrong, isn't it right to not hide behind wealth but make him receive the right punishment? I support Mr. Roman Dimitri's side. At that moment, his heart sank. Count Castro looked at Count Fabius with a puzzled face. What is this? This was the most unexpected development. Count Fabius had a title. Cairo's Raccoon. All the nobles of Cairo want to advance ahead. Among them, there are many people with outstanding abilities, but the ones who survive are those like him. Eyes that can read the right time. By doing business with people who will take care of him, he can succeed without much effort. Count Castro. He comes from a prestigious family in Cairo, is recognized by all, and has had a close relationship with Marquis Benedict since childhood. So, as soon as they entered the central government, I put a lot of effort into making this relationship with Count Castro work. Marquis Benedict is a man who can always join hands with the enemy for the sake of victory. Then there is one exception: blood ties. Marquis Benedict had already shown his intention to accept Roman Dimitri as his son-in-law, meaning that he would turn away from Count Castro. So, he assessed the situation carefully, so he made his decision. As I watched the situation, it was clearly William's fault. You ought to punish him for it. As Count Fabius stood at a crossroads in life, he put faith in his own personal experience. It was a different development than expected, and Count Castro was embarrassed. He never thought that he would turn down his request, so he couldn't hide his expression. See Count Fabius? His blood went cold. That title of Count Fabius. He knew from the beginning that this person was thoroughly calculating. It is clear that Cairo's Raccoon made a calculating move. Perhaps Count Fabius reasoned that supporting Roman Dimitri would be to his benefit. Damn it. Does this mean that Roman Dimitri is that great? It is certain that if we go to war with Dimitri, we will fall to hell then. He felt goosebumps. He decided to look at the situation objectively. You cannot run into such a mess just because of pride. He swallowed down his anger. Count Castro said with a forced expression. After listening to Count Fabius, I think I made a mistake, and I am really sorry. It was a matter concerning my son, and I lost my temper for a while. Count Fabius, thank you so much for clearly stating what mistake I have made. His attitude changed. Father! William Castro groaned. For him, it was as if the sky was about to fall. In this case, Roman deliberately crossed the line, and the reason was clear. The nobles of the central government always have the illusion that they have the upper hand. Now that my value is soaring, there is a chance that my family and I will be harmed by the envy of these people. That is why I need to show them who I am once in a while. Count Castro is a good example. Count Castro bowed his head. You will follow the words of Roman Dimitri. This is clearly your fault. You will be asking Roman Dimitri's younger brother for a reasonable apology, and I will withdraw you from the academy as soon as the work is done. Please understand the heart of your father just once. The situation changed, and Roman was quick to take advantage of it. Although he moved radically, his actions were always based on a good plan. Roman said while leaving. All right, we will end this with a direct apology and resignation. Thank you very much for your generosity. At that moment, William Castro's expression turned pale. His world collapsed. Witnessing his father express his gratitude with a bright face, William Castro looked at Roman. I am done for. That's when he realized the caliber of the opponent he faced. Roman Dimitri, a man of real power. At that time, Loren Dimitri was still in the academy. His excitement at being praised by the professor didn't subside, and he also wanted to meet Roman. It was then that a familiar face approached Loren. Loren! There is a problem! The person who came in was his classmate. The problem was that he was not a friend of Loren but one of those who tormented him with William. His expression went stiff. Now isn't the time to act tough. Your brother, Roman Dmitri, had an argument with William Castro. William was angry that you managed to hit him, so he was going on a rampage about breaking your arm. Your older brother heard it, and they headed to the Castro family's mansion. I don't know what your brother will do if we leave him alone. He looked shocked. What did it mean? Count Castro is more than capable of harming my brother. His heart sank. His own brother, Roman Dmitri, unable to bear words directed at him, went to the Castro family's mansion and put himself in a dangerous situation. Brother. Tears welled up in his eyes. If my brother gets hurt because of me, I will never be able to handle it. He ran right away. His eyes were filled with tears. Lauren Dmitri arrived at the dorm quickly and spoke into the magic communicator in a sorrowful voice. Dad, I think my brother is in danger. I think he went out to help me but then got taken to the Castro family. At those words, the person at the other end of the line was stunned. As he didn't know that the situation was over yet, he couldn't ignore the news Lauren delivered. Baron Romero cut off the communication. His face, which smiled brightly when he saw his youngest son, distorted so badly that his smile faded. That bastard Castro! Lauren is a child who doesn't ask for help unless it is serious. It must be a cause for concern. And if Lauren called in tears, then something must have happened to Roman. He asked Rihanna, What do you think we should do? As you know, the Castro family is a member of the central government, and has a close relationship with Marquis Benedict. He said it as calmly as he could, trying to calm his agitation. But contrary to what he expected, Rihanna had an angry face. Are you really saying that right now? Our relationship with the central government is a matter we can talk about at a later time. The problem we need to face is that the eldest son of Dmitri is in danger, and we, as parents, should be a fence for our children. The Dmitri family is strong and would never abandon their kids. So he made his decision. Even Rihanna would agree. Baron Romero had no reason to contain his anger any longer. He headed straight for the conference room and gave the order. Call the family vassals right now. It is an important issue, and no one should be absent. He finished summoning everyone. Even those who were dealing with their urgent tasks had immediately gathered when the Baron called. In Dimitri's conference room, the vassals of the family gathered in one place. Baron Romero looked at them with a stiff face. You must have heard the brief explanation on the way here. The eldest son of the Dmitri family, Roman Dmitri, now faces a dangerous situation due to the feud with the Castro family. According to Lauren, he had been taken to the Castro family's mansion. The opponent is Castro of the central government. I know what it means to deal with them, but I cannot sit and watch as my son is in danger. Even if the decision was made by the head, everyone was held responsible. Baron Romero was no tyrant, and always wanted to seek the consent of the vassals that made Dmitri. There will probably be a lot of opposition. It was now a matter of persuasion. He was preparing to answer any questions that might come up, but a different reaction was given. I agree. It was Jonathan, the commander of the knights. He, who oversees the military force under Dmitri, spoke without hesitation. I understand what the Lord is worried about. It's dangerous to go up against someone in the central government, but isn't our goal to get Dimitri's eldest son? There's no need to spend time thinking about this. Young Master Roman Dmitri is a symbolic figure representing the Dmitri family, and we are ready to sacrifice our lives to protect that symbol. Suddenly, Hendrik spoke. I am going to prepare Dimitri's forge right now. Captain Jonathan, please tell us what we need for war. Young Master Roman is the future of Dmitri. It is unacceptable to touch young Master Roman. Castro or whatever, Lord. The blacksmiths of the smithies, the workers of the iron mines, and even the residents of Dmitri have all received a great favor from Roman Dmitri, and we are not people who deserve such grace. No one will object to this choice. So if you make the decision to go to war, please tell me firmly what I need to do. As the atmosphere changed, everyone's opinions were gathered. In response to the reactions that neither of them could afford to pass on, Baron Romero was surprised. To think they'd all be at such agreement to save Roman. Those of Dmitri have always pursued peace, But now, we'll be moving as one of the ruler of the Northeast region. The order was given. To prepare for war, all available manpower was mobilized. What? Is that true? The miners in the iron mine heard the news. The miners went to Master Jacob after hearing that they were planning a war to save Roman Dmitri. Where are those trash touching Dmitri's treasure? Call the miners right now. Even if we cannot fight on our own, we need to help the others prepare for war. Yes. Everyone moved. Baron Romero's orders didn't include the miners. It was time for them to take a break from their hard work, especially the night workers, who were supposed to sleep. But once Jacob's order was given, they moved without saying anything. Even the night workers, who couldn't sleep properly, got up with bright red eyes. Wake everyone up! Now is not the time to sleep! The blacksmiths worked. The fire was lit in the forge, with Hendrik and many other blacksmiths constantly working and checking the weapons. I think you all heard the news, young Master Roman is in danger. The sooner we finish this task, the quicker we can bring back our young master safely. There is a saying that one shouldn't move too late. I feel very fortunate to call Dmitri home. We are all grateful to the Dmitri family. So do not stop moving unless you are an ungrateful man. Hendrik spoke in a fiery voice. Everyone in Dmitri was focused on one goal and worked quickly together. It all happened in less than an hour after Lauren called. People in the capital could never predict what kind of bomb Lauren had dropped on the Dmitri estate. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and comment for next part. And subscribe to encourage me to entertain you more. While the Dmitri estate was busy, Lauren Dmitri walked in the academy thinking about what should he do to help Roman. Then he witnessed an embarrassing scene. Students were gathering, and when Lauren looked there, he was Roman carrying William from his uniform with one hand. William was thrown in front of him. He, who always looked down on others, looked up at the person who threw him down in a shabby manner. Apologize, Roman said. Speak now. If you cannot sincerely apologize, I will make sure to be compensated in another way. William! Hurry! At Roman's words, Count Castro urged William. William kneeled before Lauren Dmitri, who hadn't even grasped the situation, and spoke in a weeping voice. Lauren, I am sorry for bothering you until now. You did nothing wrong to me, yet I tormented you with a horrible grudge. Please accept my apology. If you say that you will forgive me just once, I will drop out of the academy and never appear in front of you again. Lauren Dmitri himself didn't expect this to happen. He couldn't grasp the scene unfolding before him. What on the earth is happening right now? His mind felt complicated. It was a scene that no one in the capital could have imagined. Contrary to Roman being in danger, Roman had overpowered the Castro family and made William kneel. Count Castro said, For my son's sake, I want to apologize once again, and I promise that such a thing will never happen in the future. I am going to submit his resignation letter first thing after this, so you will not have to meet him. I am really sorry. Lauren didn't know how to say it. Roman sent everyone away. Lauren was left alone with his brother, and as he was organizing his thoughts to try and explain the situation, Roman spoke. Lauren. Yes? Lauren was lost in his thoughts. Roman added while looking outside the balcony. What happened today isn't for you alone. The Castro family insulted the Dmitri family, and I felt the need to make them pay as the representative here. So from now on, do not take the name of our family so lightly. If you go around with your head down and are ignored by people, they will think that it is because Dmitri was brought up like that. I apologize. Lauren showed a sullen look. Lift your head. It wasn't warm. It was a cold voice, yet Lauren looked at Roman. Your name is Lauren Dmitri. I don't ever want my little brother to go through something like this again. The Castro family belongs to the central government, but if they had known the power of Dmitri, they would not have been able to treat you badly. Others do not recognize your power. It is entirely up to you to use the power, and if this happens again in the future, I will not help. They were cold words. However, Lauren's eyes were filled with emotions. My brother. Lauren nodded vigorously as he thought about the words little brother in his head. I will always remember what my brother said. Next time, if the same thing happens to me, I will not just let it pass and suffer. Hearing his words and witnessing his determined expression, Roman smiled. Good. I do not want to have any more fleeting conflicts. Lauren suddenly remembered what had happened to their father. Brother! We need to contact home right now. I don't know what father will do if we leave it like this. Count Castro returned to his mansion. Damn bastard! As soon as he got home, he slapped his son on the cheek. Grasping his flushed cheek. Do you realize what mistake you did today? Roman Dmitri is the new rising star on the continent. Not only Marquis Benedict, but even other powerful people in the Cairo kingdom are dying to recruit him, and you plan to harm his younger brother. On this day, not only Count Fabius, but also the Academy's students witnessed the apology, so the rumors would soon start to spread. The people will continue to talk about this in the future. They will say that the Castro family are idiots who could do nothing against Dmitri. From the moment you, the son of Castro, fell on your knees, our status fell to the ground. There was no way to recover from this. From the moment William crossed the line, he had already foreseen it. Thinking about the reputation he would lose only made Count Castro feel dizzy. Damn it! He wondered how to face Marquis Benedict. Count! We got a call from the Dmitri family. From Dmitri? Why would they call us? At those words, the Count had a distorted expression. The issue between Roman and Castro was over, but Baron Romero was unaware of this and pushed forward his plan for violence. Count Castro. I heard you harmed my son. The nobles of the central government may be arrogant, but we will never stand by the atrocities of those who dared touch the blood of my family. He could see Baron Romero's angry face behind the screen. Given the chain of events, Count Castro felt as though he had aged a lot. Not only that, but the psychological impact was too great, and why was Baron Romero bringing this up now that the problem has been resolved? Tomorrow morning, we will formally request a battle of territory with the central government. And from now on, Dimitri's merchant head will stop any supplies to the Castro family, and we plan to secure all of your bonds left in the Golden Bank. So what do you think? I know that the principle of the repayment date is fast approaching, but it will be a significant financial pressure in the context of preparing for war. He didn't even hesitate. Without listening to the other side, the Baron continued to speak. Not only that, but in the future, I will make sure to keep the Castro family and any other hostile forces at arm's length. We will fully provide the needed funds and do anything to destroy the power you hold, Castro. We don't know what name you hold in the Academy of Cairo, but even if Dmitri has to pay a huge cost for our actions, we will definitely watch you fall. The threat from Baron Romero was quite dangerous. If what they were saying turned into reality, the Castro family was bound to be in danger. I can't let this happen. He felt lost. If the bonds were returned and hostile forces formed a group, just the thought made him go pale. Even if they managed to defeat Dmitri, they would be easily intimidated by financial threats. Besides, it was impossible to have a sure victory in the Battle of Territory. While a typical noble family did not have more than 200 soldiers, Dimitri's military power exceeded a lot more, and finally, didn't they have Roman Dmitri? At first, he was worried about how to face Marquis Benedict, but the more he thought, the stronger he felt Dimitri's potential. If he went to war with them, no matter how powerful he was in the capital, he was bound to fall into the abyss. It was then. Release my son, whom you are holding in captivity. This will be the last warning. Wait, now this felt strange. Holding his son in captivity? Count Castro spoke right away, thinking the opponent was mistaken. Baron Dmitri! It seems like you are clearly mistaken, but we are not holding anyone from the Dmitri family. My son did something wrong to Lauren Dmitri, and he is fully reflecting on his actions. I personally went with my son to make him kneel and apologize. The problem is already solved, and there is no need to have a battle of territory. We already reached a compromise. He only spoke the truth. Beyond the screen, Baron Romero looked shocked. Is that true? The anger that had flared up like a fire had died down. Baron Romero, who had completed the war preparations, couldn't quickly grasp the reality that Roman had already received an apology from Castro. The misunderstanding was quickly cleared, but Baron Romero, who had heard the explanation, spoke, "All right." The communication was cut off. He still felt complicated. Leaders are born with the ability to lead. In such a short amount of time, Roman has completely taken over the hearts of the people of Dimitri. From the head of the family to the smiths and the miners, now the roots of Dimitri have accepted Roman as their leader. Furthermore, right outside the office were men waiting for his orders. Seeing all of them on the street, regardless of age and gender, Roman's status seemed to have changed again. He understood the people in Dimitri. Everyone was looking up to him. As the father, he couldn't help but feel delighted at the response they had for Roman. Baron Romero shouted to the people waiting outside. "There won't be a war. Get ready to party right now. For the sake of my son and the future of Dimitri, I will reward those who made a great decision. Smithies, mines, and inns are all closed. We eat and drink as much as we want. Get drunk like today is the last day." The eventful day that lit everyone's hearts on fire finally came to an end. The event spread like a rumor. Everyone talked about the dispute between Dimitri and Castro. "I'm telling you, I saw it myself." "Really? Count Castro is one of the most powerful individuals within the capital, but he made his eldest son kneel and apologize to the Dimitri family's third son. It is clear that the power system in Cairo is starting to change." Meanwhile, the merchants from Dimitri spread new words. It had only been a few hours, but the merchants of Dimitri had spread these words. They will cut off all dealings with the Castro family and suggest a way to corner them too, and those who helped in this would be given a huge reward by the Dimitri family. Do you know what it means? With the recent issue of Castro and Roman Dimitri, the Dimitri family is ready to go on a war against them. Wow! A family on the outskirts wants to face Castro? Right, and what is even more startling is that as soon as the incident happened, all the nobles took Dimitri's side. Castro and Dimitri are in a position where power in the capital and family on the outskirts clash. This means that, shockingly, the high nobles thought that Dimitri had a chance of winning. I've known for a long time that Dimitri doesn't have less potential, but things have changed since Cairo's hero was born. The circulating rumors reached Roman's ears too. In particular, the rumors that his family was preparing to go to war made him feel complicated. Dimitri is a family that opposes war, and such a family had decided that for me. Baron Romero's choice isn't his own. Dimitri must have put the war into action because everyone decided to go to war, and all the key figures must have agreed to it. A small town like Dimitri settled on the edge of the kingdom, and for my sake, they decided that war was worth the risk. This life wasn't his choice. After his death, he awoke as Roman Dimitri and chose to continue living as he had been. Even though he had become accustomed to his new life and had established new relationships, Roman found the Dimitri family to be somewhat startling at this event. Naturally, that made his personality take a drastic turn. He had clearly put up a wall around himself. In fact, the people of Dimitri could be called Roman's people, but that didn't mean they were within the wall. Is this life different from the previous one? A new life and new relationships. The result was their decision to go to war for him, even though they weren't asked to do it, and no one ordered them to do it. People showed pure favor to repay Roman. Hector Kingdom. The war with Cairo was a battle with the fate of the Hector Kingdom on the line. They risked their lives and died. They believed that Edwin Hector would win for sure. But the star of Hector fell to the devil of Cairo. Since Edwin Hector hadn't woken up yet and time passed. One day Edwin Hector finally opened his eyes. Butler with the voice commander were looking at the Edwin with worried face and shouted, "Prince! Are you awake?" Edwin, laying down with his injured body, asked, "How long has it been?" The star of Hector. People looked up to Edwin Hector. Looking at it, Edwin Hector could do nothing. His mind was looking down, and he couldn't help but watch the others die. and then he realized. This was a nightmare. The unexpected variable in the plan, as well as the existence of a being known as Roman Dmitri. If I could turn back time, could I have been able to completely defeat him? No, it was not possible. Looking back, Roman Dmitri was a step ahead of him when they fought, even when compared to Butler. I plunged the kingdom into despair. He didn't know how it was possible. What was certain was that Roman Dmitri didn't look like he had limitations on him, and therefore a victory couldn't be guaranteed. If there was no war, could the Hector kingdom struggle to survive a little more? As Edwin Hector's mind fell into deep, dark thoughts, the slaughter continued. He couldn't even guess how long this was taking. His mind felt lost, unable to bear the responsibility of what he had done. And then, Edwin Hector saw the face of the soldier who was killed by Roman. Kellen also had to take a stab in his stead and he died. The kingdom of Hector is facing the worst problem. However, Hector is not yet destroyed. There are people who only look at me, so I must somehow find a way for all of them to live. The evil darkness was gone. A bright light shone in his eyes. And, "My prince, are you awake? How long has it been?" Edwin Hector opened his eyes. About a week passed. In the meantime, many things happened in the Hector kingdom. Those involved in the war had gone silent, but the news of its plunge into despair was going around. It was a complete defeat right from the start to the end. The devil of Cairo alone slaughtered thousands of soldiers, and that wasn't enough. He even cut down Butler and pierced the rear gates of the fort. It was a fight we couldn't win in the first place. We thought the Star of Hector was the best talent in the world, but the wide world is infested with monsters even scarier. The Hector kingdom is over. We did everything we could for the war and got nothing back. Horrible rumors about Roman Dmitri spread. That name shook the continent. After such a shocking performance, people talked about the rebirth of a really great swordsman in the Cairo kingdom. "How is your body?" King of Hector sitting on his chair asked Edwin. "It is fine," Edwin replied while kneeling in front of him. "Foolish child. I never asked you to risk your life. I apologize for my inability to carry the burden of the royal family and passed it on to you, but I didn't expect you to solve the problem at the cost of your life. I am sorry." Edwin Hector bowed his head. His father's heart was warm, but Edwin Hector couldn't afford to do this now. "Father, did you hear the report from Jackson?" "I did," King replied to the Edwin inquiry. 3 days ago, anomalies were discovered in the village of Hector. It was a village where the first poor crop had started, and there were reports that the ground had not just turned dry and crumbly but had turned black, and every living thing was dying. It seems to be the necromancer's curse. The necromancer's curse, it was quite a sensitive word. Edwin Hector felt his heart sink as he heard this report from Jackson. At first I thought that it was a poor harvest that fell on Hector, a curse of God. But if this is the same as a necromancer's curse, perhaps the harvest going bad was deliberately done to torment the Hector kingdom. It wasn't done by normal black magic. Someone must have worked for many years to inflict a curse that affects the entire land of Hector, and as soon as the war is done, the curse is out in the open. Does this mean that they were forcing us to attack Cairo right from the start? Yes. At that time, we were the puppets of someone. The Cairo kingdom is no different. It is clear that the force behind this darkness is purposely taking advantage of the two kingdoms fighting. For a curse that's able to spread throughout a kingdom, we'll need at least someone on the level of an archpriest to dispel it. But we don't have the capability to hire someone like that anymore. When I was young, the Tower Master of Vast Heaven made a suggestion to me. If I give up the position of the prince and join the magic tower, I will be given something. I will spend my time in the Vast Heaven Tower. Edwin. Everyone looked shocked at Edwin's words. It meant giving up the throne, and knowing that, everyone tried to stop him, but Edwin made up his mind. It just takes 1 year. That is the only way we can solve this problem. They knew that even when the solution was presented. The fact that the Hector kingdom had no other alternative to survive. When the Cairo kingdom was celebrating, the Hector kingdom made the decision to let go of their hero. The war had ended, so the people returned to their daily routines. McBurney, who was an instructor at the Southern Training Center, stayed in a bar after arriving in the capital, unlike others. And he continued to drink. No matter how much he drank, he didn't get drunk, and his mind only got clearer. I should have died on the battlefield. 10 years of life on the battlefield. He was unable to relax his thoughts. His mental strength was worn out by constant war, so he couldn't accept a normal life. He wanted to die alongside his comrades on the battlefield. Although that was his wish, he was humbled by his superior's order not to send him to the battlefield. Right, what can a one-armed swordsman even do? But will there be any place willing to accept someone who's lost an arm? Probably not. That's the reality of it. His throat burned, making him want to drink again. But then, it has been long. A man came next to him. The moment he looked at Roman Dmitri, McBurney doubted his eyes. His heart raced. Roman Dmitri, his idol. At that moment, when his mind had gone complicated, Roman went straight to the point. I need great people for my future plans. McBurney, I think of you as the kind of person who fits my plan. I will ask you directly. Will you follow me to Dmitri? At that moment, it was as if a rope had fallen from heaven. It was a situation he had been dreaming of, so there was no reason to refuse. But I am grateful for the offer, but as you can see, I am a one-armed swordsman. Ever since I lost the arm that held the sword, I've lost my value as a swordsman. What could a person like me even do for Roman Dmitri? I am worried that with me by your side, your reputation will be tainted, and I will be a burden to you. He didn't want to refuse. In fact, he wanted to jump at it. But he couldn't help but say no. This was the reality. He was no hero. He was lucky enough to be alive. It doesn't sound like a rejection to my ears, though. Am I wrong? McBurney said nothing. In the New World, Roman's criteria for accepting talent weren't for the present but for the future. And Roman said, Have you ever heard of the left-handed swordsman? In Baek Jung-hyuk's memory, Roman remembered a warrior who showed an impressive performance. Left-handed swordsman, Song Baek. He was called the Secret Escort. Dedicated to serving the nation, he lost his right arm during the war and was told that he could no longer work on the battlefield. But the imperial family didn't abandon him. He was granted wealth and honor by acknowledging his achievements, but Song Baek, who had spent his entire life on the battlefield, couldn't accept living a peaceful life. Song Baek spent days of suffering, and one day, he held the sword again. He made the decision to end his life as a warrior, even if it meant dying in vain. Song Baek swung the sword for years until his left arm got used to it. And when he regained his skills to some extent, he challenged the warriors of Murim while wielding his sword in his left hand. After years of training, the left-handed swordsman gradually developed a system. He used his twisted body to stay balanced, which was always pointed out as a weakness. He attacked aggressively, and his anomalous attacks would always work. Finally, he met Baek Jung-hyuk and died. But when he died as a warrior, Song Baek smiled sincerely while reminiscing about his days when he was alive. The left-handed swordsman was a person who lived the same life as you. However, he overcame his physical weakness and wielded the sword with his left hand, which surprised me. If you can promise to entrust your future to me, I will show you what it is like. And unlike the Cairo kingdom, which doesn't recognize your worth, I will use you better than anyone else. The pretense was omitted. It was a deal, and it offered a reward for his loyalty. That was all. At Roman's words that he would use him for his worth, McBurney felt his heart burst. To make me useful, yes, he could be the savior of my heart. If only he could live as a warrior. McBurney would do anything for Roman. He fell flat on the ground. He didn't care if people looked at him, he just put his face down and spoke loudly. I, McBurney, have heard that you will put me to good use. From now on, I will give my life to Roman Dmitri. Thank you very much for taking me under your wing. On that day, McBurney found new hope. War One event changed the lives of many. Edwin Hector, McBurney, and Henry Albert, The fool of the Albert family was also caught up in it. On the way back to his home, he sighed. He thought that Mr. Roman is too much. Still, we had struggled together for so long, couldn't he take me too? But hope doesn't always turn into reality. Roman didn't seem to accept Henry as a person, and he abandoned him as soon as they reached the capital. And now Henry Albert was returning home. And he quickly gave up on his idea easily. Right, what good would it do to be below someone? Living among people who support me is what I want to do. I don't like it at all, going out into a world full of monsters like Roman Dmitri. Just being exempt from military service is a huge achievement for me. But, hero of Cairo! Congratulations on your return, Henry Albert. The pride of the Albert family. Henry Albert returned safely. In front of the gate, cloths with strange words were written, and Henry looked blankly. Henry did absolutely nothing in the war with Hector. But just the fact that he was with Roman at the place where the war happened changed his status completely. However, the mere fact of being with Roman when the war happened changed his status, and it wasn't just that. This is the Cairo Royal Academy. Could you give us a lecture on what happened at the Southern Front? It was a contact from the capital. His heart raced. Henry knew then. The fact that you could be great even if you weren't great by being with someone who was. So he decided. In order to increase my worth, I need to spread the word of how great Roman Dmitri is. His only achievement was being beside Roman. Henry Albert quickly accepted the offer to speak. The truth might be tragic, but it wasn't too bad to borrow the name of Roman to make people look at him. From then on, Henry Albert played the role of praising Roman Dmitri's achievements to people. It was Henry Albert's turning point in his life as a fool to whom no one paid attention. A few days later, Roman left the capital. The people of the central government came out, and the people of Cairo shouted and cheered for him. As he was leaving the city, not once did he look back. When I return to the capital next time, I have to make a choice. The four forces of Cairo would not like to wait any longer. So, until then, I will completely take over the northern area so I can oppose the central government. The people of the central government didn't know the true intentions of Roman. Later on, Roman's reason for visiting the capital was something they couldn't even predict. After 1 week, Roman entered the territory of Viscount Conrad. After passing this area, Dmitri was next, so the soldiers were all longing to head back to their homes. As they approached the border between the two places, they caught a strange sight. Oh my! All the crops for the year are ruined! These bastards! If this happens, how are we supposed to live? A bunch of people who looked like farmers were sitting on the ground and weeping. Just by looking at them, it was easy to understand the situation. The vast land, which seemed to be for cultivating crops, looked devastated, and the farmers were weeping as if the sky had fallen on them. Roman looked away. He wasn't sure what horrible things had happened to them, but there was no reason for Roman to solve everyone's difficulties. Right next to him, Chris explained. Looks like they are Dmitri's farmers. I heard that some people who aren't in the mines had rented the land on Conrad's side to farm. As Conrad is a far place, it must have been difficult to manage, but it looks like something had gone wrong for them. Halt. Roman stopped walking. If they were the people of Dmitri, then it was a different story. Just like the case with the Castro family, Roman took Dmitri into his boundary, and it meant their work had to be resolved. Roman said, Chris, bring them before me. I need to hear what happened to them. I understand. Chris bowed his head and commanded the farmers to come to Roman. It was, as Chris said. They were the farmers of Dmitri, and they complained of injustice to Roman. As you know, not much land in Dmitri is available to farm. So there are many who rent the land on the border of Dmitri and Conrad, and we signed a contract with the Conrad family, and we promised to rent this land for 10 years. Now, in a month's time, the crop is supposed to be harvested, but a few days ago, the Conrad family sent us the most nonsensical notice. The Conrad family apparently has work to do on this land, so we were asked to clear land within a week. Does this make sense? No matter how poor we are, we did make a contract to rent this land for 10 years at a reasonable cost. With 5 years more left on the contract, they are kicking us out of our rented land without a discussion. Young master, it is quite sad. Look at this, we didn't move out so the Conrad family sent their men to ravage the land. We have no way to live now. We have been working so hard for this crop to be harvested. Now, what do we do when the crop will not even come? The farmers cried at the frustrating situation for them. Chris said, Lord, the situation of the farmers is unique, but that doesn't mean we can do anything. The land leased by the farmers belonged to the Conrad family. Even if we prevented them from taking the land into possession, it would only lead to problems between the two noble families. The Conrad family is forming their own group of nobles in the Northeast. They are not a simple target for us. The Northeast Alliance. They were a group that united in the face of danger, so there was no reason to touch such groups. They were like bats. When Barco was in power, they stuck to them, and when Barco fell, they appeared at Dimitri's banquet. So he said, Chris, if we ignore a problem because it is not simple, then no one can solve it. And bystanders only increase the intensity of the problem. Before I increase my influence, I need to get rid of the root of the problems around me. Chris was shocked at Roman's words and understood the meaning behind them. Chris took a step back and bowed his head. I obey the command of my lord. If Roman made the decision, then it was his duty to follow it. They finally arrived in Dimitri. The gates were wide open to welcome the return of Roman, and the men cheered for them. Roman! Roman! Hero of Cairo! Pride of Dimitri! It was a mess. These people heard the rumors too. The fact that Roman played an active role in the Southern Front and was called Cairo's hero. Roman moved through the crowd. It was a familiar scene to be welcomed by people, and wherever he looked, people cheered for him. At the entrance of the inner city, Baron Romero ran to hug him. Son! You have been through so much. How have you been? All is fine. What can be special about this place? We have prepared a grand party for you. Consider this the last day of your life and eat and drink while having the most fun. Baron Romero walked ahead, but Roman didn't follow him. He spoke with a face that didn't like the cheers of the people. Father, can you spare some time for me? In the office of the Lord, the deafening cheers were no longer heard, and Roman explained what happened at Conrad's, to which Baron Romero replied with a firm face. I did hear about something like that, but son, there are a few sensitive issues in the world that shouldn't be touched. No matter the fact that a contract was signed, there is no way to prevent Conrad from reclaiming the land that is rightfully theirs. Will the farmers of Dimitri be able to farm properly on the land of Conrad? Rather, it would be better to create a peaceful solution by giving them new jobs. Just like Chris said, Baron Romero didn't want this issue to grow any further. Even if it seriously harmed the people of Dimitri, this was a matter that happened on the border of both states. And Roman said, I do understand what Father is talking about. But there is one thing I want to ask. If it wasn't Dimitri, but the people of Marquis Benedict, do you think the Conrad family would be able to take back the land given to the farmers? At that, his expression went stiff. This was a sensitive issue. It was meaningless to give this as an example, but still, the Baron couldn't understand what Roman's intentions were for bringing this up. Marquis Benedict is a living power, so no one will think of touching him or his people. Then what do you think of Dimitri's position in the Northeast? Just half a year ago, we didn't hold a solid position either. But as we overthrew the Barco family, we are now the strongest in the Northeast. I will not deny that. Although Dimitri is said to be the strongest in the Northeast, we never know what dangers await us if we attack a neighboring estate and blindly trust our newfound power. This isn't a matter of pride. There is no need to create a fight between Dimitri and other troops by raising a problem that we do not have to touch. No. There is no need for that, he said firmly. Despite the Baron's words, Roman didn't step back. We defeated Barco. At that time, the Northeast was an area that seemed to follow the words of Barco and was protected by the central government. But what about now? Although it is said that Barco held the power of the central government, the Conrad family and other nobles are showing that Dmitri doesn't hold the true power. People say that Dmitri isn't as good as Barco, so there is no need to worry too much. Even touching the people of Dmitri doesn't seem to be a problem for them. After all, Dmitri is just a family in the northeast, and they think we have a limit to our tasks and actions as we do not receive protection from those who hold power. Father, the people of the Conrad family touched the people of Dmitri. It wasn't a problem between the estates, but the Conrad people had directly gone to do it, and they made the decision without another thought that touching the people of Dmitri was all right. What does this mean? That we have a limit? People say that Dmitri is the best in the northeast, but isn't the reality much farther from that? He looked straight into Baron Romero's eyes and continued with a firm voice. Now is the time to organize the power flow in the northeast. Who is above, and who is below? We will have to show it clearly through this incident. Sparks flew off. Roman revealed his new ambition. The scene shifts to the evening. Baron Romero was sitting in his office drinking wine. He was still thinking about the conversation with Roman. Roman said, "We have the powers as well as justification to aid our denizens. Why are we just watching while we let the Conrad family trample on our people? Please let me wield my sword. As long as you give the order, I will be the one to dirty my hands with blood." Roman said this with absolute confidence. The conversation didn't have a clear conclusion. They ended the conversation, and Baron Romero was left alone with his thoughts. "My son has grown a lot." Roman's last words left a lasting impression on him. Not because he claimed he'd hold the sword, but because he didn't want his own people to be touched. Dimitri's people put their trust in Roman, and he repaid their faith with great leadership today. Perhaps the people might be right. Born as a commoner, he was unable to handle the power of Dmitri, but his son Roman was different. He was raised differently than a typical commoner, unlike me. People claim that Roman is half noble, but the Roman of today may have been born as a result of the hardships he endured later in life. Roman understands people's difficulties and tries to solve them. What Dmitri lacked was not strength or power but the determination of their lord. Then it may be necessary for me to appoint a successor. A new era has opened for the Dmitri territory. A few days later, a party was held by the Dmitri family. The purpose of the celebration was Roman's return, and of course, all the nobles from the northeast had gathered in Dmitri. From the Volt family. I am Sophia from the Grizel family. On behalf of the hero's family, I want to congratulate Roman Dmitri. Many nobles began arriving early in the day. Although the northern nobles did not accept the Dmitri family as true nobles, they did not deny their power. Dmitri was clearly the best in the northeast. However, the eldest son of such a family returned as the hero of Cairo, and they couldn't ignore it. The huge party hall was filled with people. They appeared to be having a good time at the party, but when they had the opportunity to speak with Roman, they took advantage of it. "Do you remember me? Lady Sophia of the Grizel family." "Of course I remember. Didn't we have a conversation at the party at Barco last time?" "Ah. You remember?" Sophia smiled despite Roman not saying much. She thought, certainly not the former Roman Dmitri. It would be great if I could make him my man. How do I make him like me? The halo around Roman Dmitri overwhelmed the people, and all the nobles around wanted to impress him, especially the women of noble families. Roman Dmitri, the hero of Cairo, was the center of attention at the party, and many guests wanted to claim him as their own. A man approached Roman as the night of the celebration progressed further. "I am Viscount Conrad. It is truly an honor to meet the hero of Cairo who defeated Hector." Roman thought, "So then, this is Viscount Conrad," and replied with a smirk, "I am Roman Dmitri." Viscount Conrad smiled kindly and asked for a shake. It was clear he was familiar with Roman. In their conversation, he was somehow trying to make Roman like him. "I heard that you defeated the 5-star swordsman, Butler, in the battle with Hector. Seriously, I cannot believe you achieved such a thing in your mid-20s. There was a time when I dreamed of being a swordsman. Of course, I couldn't get a feel for mana as I wasn't born with talent like Mr. Roman, so I gave up, but I know how great you are, better than anyone else. Roman replied. You flatter me. The northeast area hasn't yet produced skilled rankers so far, but I think Roman Dmitri can aim for the top position. The atmosphere looked friendly. Viscount Conrad realized the chat had gone on longer than expected, so he shook off the curious looks and kept talking. It was then that Roman spoke. I have one personal question for you. Viscount Conrad thought. Controlling the flow of conversation, he is pretty smart for someone of a common origin, and then he replied. Please feel free to speak your mind. With a fake smile. I heard that the Dmitri farmers had their lands taken away by Viscount Conrad without a notice. Could you tell me why? There is still a contract period left, and without a sudden notice, you drove away the farmers, making them suffer. At that moment, the Viscount's face went stiff. He didn't want to answer it, so he decided to pass the question on in a gentle manner. Actually, there was a plan to use the surrounding area at a higher price. That is all. Let's skip this meaningless. Is that all? His words were cut off. Viscount Conrad, who was trying to change the subject, couldn't hide his displeasure. Mr. Roman, we are having a party for you, so why do you keep talking about sensitive topics? Then shifting his gaze, he said, This a party that's meant to congratulate your return. Why have you chosen to make me look bad in front of all these people? He turned around and said, Now that I've been treated in this manner, I can no longer put on a smile at this party. I will take my leave now. And with everyone's attention on him, he stepped back, making his way through the crowd. It was then. Viscount Conrad. You have not answered me yet. If you end the conversation like this and leave the party, then I will accept your attitude as hostility towards Dmitri. Stand in front of me again and explain what happened that day. It was no mistake. It was intentional. The celebration, which had been joyful until a split second before, was now as chilly as ice water being dumped on it. Hey there, thanks for joining us today. If you had enjoyed watching our content, don't forget to show some love by hitting that like button and subscribing to our channel. It would really mean a lot to us. We have a lot of amazing content that we would love to share with you. So make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on your notifications to never miss out on another one of our videos.